Inuyasha has a huge cast of characters, with many of them being very powerful. With such a variety of powers, weapons, and personalities, it's hard not to compare them all. So that's exactly what I'm going to do today, to find out the top 10 strongest characters out of everyone we see in this beloved anime. As always, these rankings are pretty subjective, and just my opinion, although I'm going to justify my choices as best as I can. Let me know in the comments below who you think is going to come out on top. At number 10, we have Magatsui, the essence of the darkness of the Shikon Jewel personified. He's basically pure evil with no human feelings to balance him out. He was created from the demon of the Shikon Jewel. He was created, helped into physical form by Naraku. In fact, he has some terrifying abilities, such as being able to corrupt shards of the jewel. His evil is so great that he even caused Kagome's spiritual abilities to be sealed. He's able to survive Miroku's wind tunnel and can produce one of the most powerful miasma in the whole series. Add to all of this his cruel and arrogant nature, and I think he's deserving of a place in the top 10. Ultimately, he was no match for the combination of Inuyasha and Sesshomaru. He wasn't prepared for those he considered weak to get the best of him, so his arrogance worked against him in the end. He had the potential to be a much bigger problem than he actually ended up being. The demon of the Shikon Jewel is the whole reason the jewel exists in the first place. Made up of so many ancient demons, he holds an immense amount of power. It took Midoriko sealing both this demon and herself inside the freshly created jewel to end their battle. And I think this fact alone gives us a good idea of how strong he must be. Additionally, it's this demon who is the true big bad of the story, having used Naraku and his desires towards Kikyo to complete the Shikon Jewel once again. We can only judge his power based on his history with Midoriko, and she was able to seal him away. He wasn't capable of emerging under his own power, which might speak more to Midoriko's strength, but also places him lower in the ranking. Overall, it was Kagome's pure and honest heart that won out, and that's the weakness that the demon of the Shikon Jewel fell to. The priestess who created the Shikon Jewel, Midoriko, is undeniably powerful. We know that her spiritual abilities are incredibly strong, as she was able to stop such an overwhelming demon. Even though she was on the verge of death, creating the Shikon Jewel to trap the demon was an act of amazing strength, both in terms of spiritual power and courage. She is considered to be the most powerful human of her time, and can perform her spiritual abilities even from within the jewel itself, such as forming barriers. At her full strength, I can only imagine what she was capable of. But as we only really get to see her as a spirit after the creation of the jewel, for what we know of her, I thought ranking her at number 8 was the most appropriate. Kikyo is well known for having great spiritual power. Having trained as a priestess, she's well respected for her abilities in her own time. And, understandably, Kagome gets compared with her a lot. As a healer, skilled archer, and intelligent fighter, she's a force to be reckoned with, as both an enemy and an ally. In fact, she's so strong that she was the one trusted to protect the Shikon Jewel from all manner of evil. She even keeps a good deal of her spiritual power after her resurrection, which says a lot about how strong she really is. In spite of this, she does develop a desire for revenge after she comes back to life, and shows jealousy towards Kagome. To me, this means her intentions are not as pure as they once were, although she does respect Kagome eventually. Because of this, and the fact that Naraku was able to overcome her, she places at number 7. I know you could argue that Kikyo is stronger than Kagome in terms of spiritual ability, but hear me out. While Kikyo has trained to be a priestess, Kagome possesses many of the same powers, and her skill in using them grows throughout the series. She has good instincts, and combined with her deep compassion towards others, you wouldn't want to get on her bad side, especially in terms of her defensive ability and in being able to purify demon energy. Kagome is greatly useful to the group through the story, but it's her personality that finally allows her to destroy the Shikon Jewel once and for all. Her sense of justice and love for others are what make her an enemy to be feared and an ally to be respected. Despite some flaws, such as stubbornness and jealousy, she never stops trying to protect Inuyasha and even Kikyo. That's why I've ranked her above Kikyo, because she doesn't let her negative feelings get in the way of her compassion. And ultimately, that's what brings the story to its happy ending. Toga, or the Great Dog Demon, is the infamous father of both Sesshomaru and Inuyasha. He is considered one of the greatest demons of the era. Even after his death, as far as the time of Yashahime, he's spoken about with reverence and awe. The two powerful swords, Tetsaiga and Tenseiga, are formed from his fangs, and his swordsmanship abilities are unparalleled. Despite his immense demonic power, he's also said to have been compassionate towards humans, to the extent that he fell in love with one and fathered a half-human child. Toga is a fascinating character, just by the relationships he had, and I wish we'd seen more of him to get a better impression of his true strength. However, at the end of the day, we can argue that both of his sons have surpassed him in ability, if not in reputation. It may be a bit controversial to place Inuyasha himself as low as number 4, but here we are. He's a badass character who grows both physically and mentally over the course of the show. Determined and brave, his caring heart gives him strength, and while he's impulsive at times, he's also very protective towards his loved ones. Regarding his abilities, he's the son of the great dog demon, and therefore has a great deal of demonic power. Over the series, he only gets stronger, by developing new powers and techniques in himself and with Texaiga. Growing up in the feudal era, he's a skilled swordsman, with his fighting abilities being enhanced by his demon blood. However, he is only a half-demon, and although his demon form is incredibly strong, he doesn't have as much control over it. His half-demon identity also causes conflict within himself, but by the end of the series, he is able to make his peace with being half-human. Being a half-demon is both a weakness and a strength for him, because he has this inner conflict that at times gets in the way of his relationships. But by the end, his bonds with his companions, especially Kagome, are as strong as can be. The only reason I didn't place Inuyasha at number 3 is because I wanted to put Kirinmaru here. Right now, it looks like he's being set up to be the final boss of the Yashahime series, and although we don't know a great deal about him, he is a terrifying adversary for the 3 Yashahime girls. Supposedly, he's close in strength to Toga, but after the events of the Inuyasha anime, it seems that Sesshomaru fears that he could kill Inuyasha. This is what leads to Sesshomaru sealing his brother away, even after they've both grown arguably stronger than their father was. Kirinmaru also beats all 3 Yashahime girls pretty much at the same time, criticizing their lack of strength to the point that he didn't even want to keep fighting them. He shows respect towards Sesshomaru though, and clearly considers him a powerful ally, perhaps almost an equal. I want to add a disclaimer to this wildcard entry in the ranking though, because the Yashahime anime hasn't finished yet. Depending on the outcome of the series, we may learn that Kirinmaru is much stronger or possibly weaker than he currently appears. So if you disagree with him being ranked 3rd, I completely understand. Naraku is the main antagonist of the Inuyasha series, and for good reason. He's ruthless and selfish, seeking the power of the Shikon Jewel for himself. One of his most powerful abilities, in my opinion, is the ability to add new powers and remove weaknesses by adding and removing demons he's absorbed into his own being. He can also create new entities, such as Kagura, who in theory can work under his influence to further his goals. Being cruel and manipulative, he's a formidable opponent because of how easily he can twist situations to his own ends. Additionally, he has great demonic powers, such as a powerful miasma and the ability to use spells and curses, giving him a range of ways to get the upper hand. His selfishness and arrogance became his downfall in the end, but he was such a troublesome and tricky nemesis throughout the entire series that I didn't want to place him any lower. You may not be surprised to know that the first place goes to none other than Sesshomaru. In fact, I have a whole video talking about exactly how strong he is, so be sure to go and check that out to get even more of an idea of why he's number 1. In short, Sesshomaru is the pure demon son of the great dog demon, and therefore holds an incredible amount of power. He's a strong fighter and has lots of experience using his variety of demonic abilities, with intelligence and composure. As one of the few characters who never wanted the Shikon Jewel's power, his fatal flaw was his obsession with his father's sword. He overcame this though, learning compassion and care for others. Finally, being able to rely on his own strength rather than seeking Toga's. Even during the events of Yashahime, his name is spoken with respect by most, as his reputation for strength and nobility is almost equal to his father. Well, that's gonna finish up my top 10 strongest Inuyasha characters. I want to know what your thoughts are though, so let me know down in the comment section below whether you agree or not. And if not, what do you think the top 10 should be? Thanks so much for watching. With that being said, I'm Mystic Sage, and I will see you in the future for more Inuyasha content and more anime content.